Have you ever had the feeling of being surrounded by people, yet still feeling completely alone? This is one of the most common and most distressing experiences of our time. What used to be a fleeting feeling, showing up during specific moments like moving to a new city or a plan-free weekend, has now become a constant presence in the lives of millions. In the UK, 6 out of 10 young people between the ages of 18 and 34 say they often feel lonely. In the United States, nearly half the population reports the same. And this is happening precisely in an era where we're more connected than ever. We have social media, instant messaging, video calls, and yet feeling disconnected has never been so common. It's important to understand that being alone is not the same as feeling lonely. You can enjoy your own company and still feel miserable in a crowd. Loneliness is internal, personal. If you feel alone, then you are. It's that simple. There's a myth that only shy people or those with poor social skills experience loneliness. But research tells a different story. Being socially skilled or not has little influence on whether someone feels disconnected. This is a condition that can affect anyone, the rich, the famous, the attractive, the outgoing. Loneliness does not discriminate. That's because it's wired into our bodies. It's a biological signal, just as important as hunger. Just like your stomach tells you when you need to eat, loneliness tells you that something is missing in your social connections. And the reason behind this goes way back. For millions of years, our survival depended on living in groups. Our ancestors formed small, tight-knit communities where everyone relied on each other to survive. Alone, you had no chance against predators, starvation, or cold. Being part of a group was literally a matter of life or death. That's why we evolved mechanisms to keep us connected. One of them is the pain of rejection. When we feel socially excluded, our brains activate areas similar to those triggered by physical pain. It's a response designed to alert us. You're at risk, you need to reconnect. Those who felt this pain more intensely were more likely to change their behavior and stay in the group. Those who ignored it were left behind and rarely survived. But then we began to change the world around us. The social structure that once protected us slowly began to dissolve. By the end of the Renaissance, Western culture started to value the individual over the collective. Religions began to emphasize personal responsibility, and the Industrial Revolution accelerated everything. People left their villages, their families, their roots, and moved to cities in search of work. These changes fragmented communities that had lasted for generations. Big cities grew, but social bonds weakened. Modern life pushed us further away from our closest connections. We move for jobs, studies, relationships, and leave friendships behind. Today, we have fewer face-to-face interactions, fewer deep conversations. In the US, for example, the average number of close friends dropped from 3 to 2 in less than 30 years, and hardly anyone notices they're falling into this trap. You grow up, start working, get involved in studies, relationships, kids, digital entertainment. And little by little, time with friends slips away, until one day you realize you're alone and you miss real connection. Building new bonds in adulthood is hard, and loneliness can quietly settle in and become a habit. Despite all our technological advances, our biology is still the same as it was tens of thousands of years ago. We are still social creatures, and the body doesn't take it well when this is ignored. Studies show that chronic loneliness is one of the most harmful factors to our health. It accelerates aging, worsens illnesses like cancer, weakens the immune system, and is linked to the progression of Alzheimer's. It's more dangerous than obesity and as deadly as smoking daily. The scariest part? Once it sets in, loneliness tends to feed itself. The lonelier you feel, the harder it becomes to reconnect. And that traps us in a cycle that's tough to break. Here comes loneliness's cruelest trap. It changes the way we see the world. When someone is chronically lonely, the brain enters a constant state of alert, as if in survival mode. You begin to misinterpret social signals. An unanswered message becomes rejection. A neutral look feels like disdain. A friend's silence feels like abandonment. The result? You withdraw even more, even when deep down all you want is connection. It's a vicious cycle. The lonelier you feel, the harder it is to get close to someone. And the more you isolate yourself, the stronger the loneliness becomes. The body, brain, and psyche react as if under constant attack. Studies show that chronic loneliness changes how the immune system functions, raises cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and disrupts sleep. Not to mention the emotional impacts: anxiety, depression, and a deep sense of emptiness. And the scariest part? You can go through all of this without anyone noticing, not even yourself. After all, we live in a culture that glorifies extreme independence. The message we hear is loud and clear: you don't need anyone. Admitting you're lonely has become synonymous with weakness, as if asking for connection was something to be ashamed of. But it's not. On the contrary, recognizing that you need others is one of the greatest signs of emotional strength anyone can show. We are by nature interdependent beings. So, is there a way out? Yes, there is. And while it's not magical, the first steps are within reach. The first thing to understand is that deep bonds aren't built quickly or spontaneously. They require intention, presence, and consistency. It's like growing a plant. You need to water it, tend to it, dedicate time, even on days when it seems like nothing is happening. Reconnecting with old friends, even with a simple message, can be a fresh start. Creating new circles around shared interests, like classes, clubs, or volunteer projects, can open doors. Trading quantity for quality also makes a difference. It is not about having a huge contact list, but about building relationships where you can truly be yourself without masks. Another key lies in learning to reconnect with people through compassion, including with yourself. Instead of waiting for someone to come rescue you, try taking the first step. That takes courage, of course, but it's within that vulnerability that the most powerful connections are born. Technology, which so often feeds loneliness, can also be used in our favor, as long as we use it consciously. Social media, for example, can be bridges, not walls. Video calls, online groups, and virtual communities can be safe, welcoming spaces if used with intention and authenticity. And finally, it's essential to understand that feeling lonely is not a personal failure. It's not a character flaw. It's a natural response from a human being living in an increasingly dehumanized world. But loneliness doesn't have to be a life sentence. It can be a sign, a call to return to the roots of what truly makes us human: connection. At the end of the day, no success, no achievement, no recognition holds real meaning if there's no one to share it with. We are wired to find ourselves in the eyes of others, in touch, in listening, in presence. And maybe that is the greatest lesson of all. While we search for ways to build a more advanced, more technological, and more efficient world, we must also remember to build a more connected one, because deep down, what we most want and most need is to belong. Have you ever stopped to consider that your brain reacts to rejection the same way it reacts to physical pain? Yes, to your brain, the pain of a cut and the pain of social exclusion are equally serious threats. And like any threat, the response is immediate: full defense mode. When loneliness lingers for too long, it activates a survival mode inside you. It's as if the brain pulls the emergency brake, seeing danger in every gesture, glance, or word from others. The problem is, this constant defense comes at a high cost. The lonely mind enters a strange state. It becomes more alert, more sensitive to its surroundings, but less accurate. You start paying more attention to people, but understanding them less and less. A neutral face becomes a threat. Silence feels like judgment. A simple comment is twisted into criticism. It's like your brain puts on distrustful lenses, and all you see are invisible threats. And to protect yourself, you shut down. You become more self-centered, more suspicious, more distant. But that's not who you really are. It's just the shield your brain created to keep you safe. Unfortunately, this behavior creates the wrong impression. You seem cold, inaccessible, and that drives people away. The very loneliness you wanted to avoid begins to reinforce itself. That's where the vicious cycle begins. It all starts with a mild sense of isolation, something unresolved. That discomfort grows, turns into tension, sadness, insecurity. You start to remember negative interactions more and value the positive ones less. Your thoughts become heavier about yourself and about others. Your social energy drops. You avoid contact, stop replying to messages, decline invitations, until one day no one invites you anymore. And at that point, the isolation becomes part of your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who's always on the outside, and like a mirror, others start reacting to that image. Your external reality starts to mold itself to your internal perception. The world begins to look exactly the way you feel inside, empty, cold, distant. And the scariest part? This process can take years, unfolding so slowly that you don't even notice, until connection feels almost impossible, even if you long for it with all your heart. But this cycle can be broken, and the first step is simple, though not easy: to recognize that feeling lonely is completely normal. Every human being, without exception, has felt this. Loneliness is not a sign of weakness, nor a personal failure. It's simply a human response to a human need, the desire to belong. And what you feel doesn't need to be hidden or ignored. On the contrary, it needs to be embraced. This is where self-awareness becomes essential. Pause and observe. Where is your attention? Are you only noticing the negative signals in your relationships? Was that interaction really bad? Or was it just neutral and you took it personally? Was that person truly harsh or just in a rush? What exactly was said? What actually happened? Are you placing more emotional weight on the situation than it calls for? And more, when you enter a conversation, do you already assume you'll be rejected? That no one will understand you? That you're being tolerated rather than welcomed? Is it possible that in trying not to get hurt, you've already shut down before even trying to connect? Here comes the turning point. What if you started giving people the benefit of the doubt? What if you gradually allowed yourself to open small windows of trust again? What if, instead of assuming the worst in others, you started believing that maybe, just maybe, they're not against you? And of course, pay attention to your actions. Have you been turning down new opportunities, refusing invitations without much thought, looking for reasons to stay home or ignore messages? Have you been acting like someone protecting themselves from an attack, even when there's no threat? Recognizing all of this can be painful, but it's also freeing. Every story is unique. Every pain has its roots. And in many cases, reflection alone isn't enough. If you feel like you were stuck in this cycle and can get out on your own, seeking professional help is an act of courage, not weakness. Asking for support might be one of the greatest acts of self-love a person can offer themselves. We live in the age of human achievement. We've colonized space, created thinking machines, and connected in real time with any corner of the planet. But despite all that, we still haven't found a way to fill the emptiness that loneliness leaves behind. It doesn't matter if loneliness shows up as a personal struggle, one you face in the quiet moments of your routine, or as a collective challenge that affects entire communities. The truth is, it's become a real issue, and it needs to be faced head-on. The world we've built is full of technological wonders, innovation, and comfort. But none of these modern achievements can replace what's deeply rooted in our human nature: the desire and the need to connect with other human beings. While most animals take what they need from their environment to survive, we humans depend on each other. Our emotional nourishment, our sense of purpose, our identity, all of it is shaped through the social bonds we form throughout life. And if that part of us is ignored, even the most advanced world turns cold, indifferent, and desolate. So, how about taking a small step today? It doesn't have to be anything grand. It could be a simple message to a friend you haven't seen in a while, a phone call to a distant relative, an unexpected coffee invitation to that coworker you usually only exchange small talk with, or maybe even showing up to that social event you've been avoiding, a club, a gathering, a group class. Maybe you'll feel uncomfortable at first. Maybe fear or laziness will try to convince you to put it off. But here's the thing, every person is different. Only you know the best way to step out of isolation. And if today isn't the perfect day, that's okay too. The point isn't to become a social butterfly overnight. What matters is starting to slowly train the invisible muscles of human connection, the same ones that loneliness weakens over time. And in doing so, not only do you grow stronger, you might help someone around you do the same. And if this video resonated with you, if it touched you or made you reflect in any way, share it with someone you care about. Leave a comment below, tell your story. You never know who might feel a little less alone after reading what you have to say. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next video.